Grease covered Roan's hands as he twisted the wrench one more time. The gravity drive made a grinding noise that hurt his ears, but he kept working. Station Halcyon floated in the dark void of space, far from any major trade routes. Most people forgot it existed. That suited Roan just fine. He preferred machines to people these days. The wrench slipped and scraped his knuckles. Roan swore under his breath and wiped blood on his already dirty work pants. He was about to try again when something exploded through the bay doors. Metal shrieked as it tore apart. Roan dove behind a tool cart as debris rained down around him. When the noise stopped, he looked up. An escape pod sat smoking in the middle of his workshop. It had carved a path of destruction through his carefully organized space. Sparks flew from exposed wiring in the walls. The pod itself looked like it had been through a war. Blast marks scorched its surface, and one side was completely caved in. Roan approached slowly. His heart hammered in his chest. Nobody came to Halcyon anymore. Nobody crashed into his bay. He reached the pod and found the emergency release. It hissed open, and chemical smoke poured out. Inside lay a girl unlike anyone Roan had ever seen. She had wings, actual wings that folded against her back, made of something that looked like metal feathers. They were silver and caught the dim light of his workshop. Her skin was pale blue and her eyes were closed. Blood seeped from cuts on her arms and face. Roan checked her pulse. It was there but weak. He had no medical training beyond basic first aid, but he had to try something. He grabbed his emergency kit from the wall and started cleaning the wounds. The girl's wings twitched as he worked. Up close, he could see they were not fully metal. They seemed to be part of her body, organic and mechanical at the same time. She gasped and her eyes flew open. They glowed golden like heated metal. She tried to sit up, panic written across her face. Roan held up his hands to show he meant no harm. "Easy," he said. "You crashed into my shop. You're hurt?" The girl stared at him. She said something in a language he did not know. Then she tried again in broken universal standard. "They hunt, they come. Must hide. Who's hunting you?" Before she could answer, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors outside. Roan's blood went cold. Station security never activated unless something serious was happening. The girl grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "Please, they take me back. Do experiments. Hurt me." Tears filled her glowing eyes. "Hurt my friend." Roan made a decision he knew was probably stupid. He helped the girl to her feet. She swayed and nearly fell, but he caught her. Her wings dragged on the floor. He guided her to the back of his workshop where he kept a hidden storage compartment. It was big enough for a person if they curled up small. "Get in," he said. "Don't make a sound." The girl folded her damaged wings and squeezed inside. Roan sealed the compartment just as his bay doors opened. 3 security drones floated in, their sensors sweeping the area. Behind them walked 2 guards in armor that marked them as private military, not station security. "We're looking for escaped property," one guard said. He did not ask permission to enter. A winged subject from Research Facility 7. Sensors detected her pod trajectory led here. Roan crossed his arms. "Do you see anyone?" "Just me and my broken ships." The drone scanned every corner of the bay. Roan forced himself to breathe normally. The guards poked through his equipment, knocking things over without care. One of them kicked the escape pod. "Where did this come from?" the guard demanded. "Crashed through my doors about 10 minutes ago," Roan said. "Empty when I checked. Figured someone ditched it. You know how it is out here. People dump trash in forgotten places." The guard studied him with cold eyes. "If you're lying, the penalties are severe. This subject is valuable corporate property, worth more than this entire station." "Corporate property?" Roan kept his voice level despite his anger. "You mean a living person? Not your concern." The guard turned to the drones. "Expand the search grid. Check the other bays." They left without another word. Roan waited until their footsteps faded before opening the compartment. The girl tumbled out, gasping for air. The small space had been difficult for her wings. "They will keep searching," she whispered. "I'm sorry. I brought danger to you. What's your name?" Roan asked. "Lyris. I'm Roan. And you're going to tell me everything, starting with who your friend is that you mentioned." Lyris sat on the floor. Her wings spread around her like a broken tent. "My friend is a dragon, made of metal and gears and living parts all together. The scientists, they kept us both prisoner. They wanted to make weapons from us. The dragon is still there. Still suffering. A dragon," Roan repeated. He wondered if the girl was delirious from her injuries. "I know you do not believe me," Lyra said, "but it is true. The dragon is alive. It thinks it feels. It hurts. I heard its voice in my mind through the machines. We were connected." Roan ran a hand through his hair. This was insane. He should turn the girl over and forget this ever happened. But he thought about what the guard had said. Valuable corporate property, as if Lyris was a thing to be owned. "Let me look at your wings," he said instead. "Some of those feathers are cracked." As he examined the damage, he found something that made his stomach drop. A small device embedded in the joint where her wing met her back. It blinked with a steady red light. "They put a tracker in you," Roan said quietly. Lyris's face went white. No, I checked. I thought I removed them all. This one's deep. It's going to hurt to take out." "Do it," she said. "Please." Roan grabbed his finest tools. His hands were steady despite his fear. He had to cut carefully to avoid damaging the wing's delicate mechanisms. Lyris bit down on a rag to muffle her screams. Finally, the tracker came free in a small spray of blood. Roan held it up. "Got it. But if they were following this signal, they already know exactly where you are." As if summoning them with his words, the alarms changed to a different pitch. This was not a search alarm. This was an invasion alert. Through the broken bay doors, Roan saw ships approaching the station. Military vessels with weapons hot and ready. Lyra struggled to stand. "We must run. We must leave now." "Where would we go?" Roan asked, but he was already moving toward his current project. A small prototype ship he had been repairing. It was barely functional, held together with spare parts and hope. "To my friend," Lyra said. Her golden eyes burned with determination despite her pain. "We must save the dragon before they use it to hurt others, please. I cannot do this alone." Roan looked at this strange girl with her metal wings and impossible story. He thought about his quiet life here, fixing things and hiding from the universe. Then he thought about her being dragged back to a facility where they called her property. "The ship's not ready," he said, "but I guess we don't have a choice. Get in." Lyris's face broke into a smile even as explosions began to rock the station. Together they climbed into the ship. Roan fired up the engines and prayed they would hold. The prototype shot out of the bay just as soldiers breached his workshop. They were alive and flying, but Roan knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere out there was a dragon made of gears that waited in chains, and somehow he had just agreed to rescue it. Red lights flashed across the cockpit as enemy scanners locked onto their ship. Roan pulled hard on the controls, sending them into a spinning dive that made his stomach flip. The prototype groaned in protest. It was not built for combat maneuvers. Lyra sat in the co-pilot seat with her wings pressed tight against her body. The small space barely fit them both. She gripped the armrests as another explosion rocked the area behind them. Station Halcyon was breaking apart under the assault. "Why are they destroying everything?" Roan shouted over the alarms. "Just to catch you?" "Not to catch me," Lyra said. Her voice was tight with pain and fear. "To send a message. No one escapes the Turvan Collective. No one defies them. They would rather kill me than let me stay free." Roan did not know much about the Turvan Collective except that they were a massive corporation that operated beyond the law in many sectors. They ran research facilities on forgotten worlds and stations. Now he understood why Halcyon had been so empty. The Collective owned it. They had probably cleared out all the other residents before coming after Lyris. A missile streaked past their viewport. Too close. Roan pushed the engines harder than they should go. The ship rattled like it might shake apart. "Tell me about this dragon," he said. Talking helped him focus when his hands wanted to shake. "How do I know this is not all in your head?" Lyris closed her eyes. "When they first took me, I was alone and scared. They put me in a cell next to something huge. I could not see it through the walls, but I felt it. Machines speak to me, Roan. They always have. My people, the Ethran. We are born understanding how things work. We feel the flow of energy and gears. And what I felt from the next cell was not a machine. It was a mind. Ancient and sad and powerful. How did you talk to it?" "Through the ventilation system. Through the wiring in the walls. Any connection of metal or circuits became our language." Lyris opened her eyes and they glowed brighter. "The dragon told me its name. Ashvir. It told me it was made long ago by people who are gone now. Part creature, part construct. It chose to surrender to the collective rather than fight because fighting meant innocent workers would die. Ashvir is gentle, Roan, but the scientists are breaking it. taking it apart piece by piece to understand how it works. Another ship appeared on their sensors, bigger than the others. A battlecruiser with enough firepower to vaporize them in seconds. Roan cursed and dove toward a nearby asteroid field. It was risky, but better than staying in open space. "They really want you back," he muttered. "They want what we know," Lyra said. "Ashfear and I learned things during our captivity. We heard the scientists talking. The collective is building weapons, creatures like Ashfear but with no will of their own, slaves designed for war. If they succeed, they will sell these weapons to the highest bidders. Entire worlds could burn." Roan wove between tumbling rocks the size of buildings. The asteroids gave them cover, but they also made navigation deadly. One wrong move would smash them to pieces. Behind them, the battlecruiser was too large to follow safely. It held position at the edge of the field. "We need a plan," Roan said. "We can't fight them. This ship has no weapons." "I have the coordinates to the facility," Lyra said. "I memorized them before I escaped. But we cannot just fly there. The defenses will destroy us before we get close," Roan thought fast. His mind worked the same way it did when fixing broken machines. Every problem had a solution if you understood how the parts connected. What if we don't fly in? What if they let us in? How? The collective uses salvage crews, right? Ships that collect damaged vessels and bring them in for recycling. I could fake a distress signal. Make it look like we're a legitimate salvage operation responding to a derelict ship near their facility. Lyra stared at him. That could work. They get dozens of salvage calls every day. One more would not raise suspicion. "Then we're inside," Roan continued. "We find Ashfear, free it, and get out before they realize what happened." "You make it sound simple." "It's not," Roan admitted. "It's probably suicide. But I don't have a better idea." They flew in silence for a while, hiding among the asteroids. The battlecruiser eventually gave up and moved away, though Roan knew they would be searching other vectors. He set course for the coordinates Lyris provided. "Why are you helping me?" Lyris asked quietly. "You do not know me. You could have turned me over and gone back to your quiet life." Roan kept his eyes on the navigation display. "I had a family once, a wife and a daughter. We were part of a colony on a mining world. The corporation that owned the mine cut costs on safety equipment. There was an accident, a tunnel collapse. I was off-world getting supplies. When I came back, they were gone. The corporation paid a small settlement and moved on like nothing happened. Like my family was just acceptable losses in their profit calculations." "I am sorry," Lyris whispered. "After that, I couldn't stay anywhere the corporations controlled. I drifted, fixed ships, tried to forget. When you crashed into my bay, when those guards called you property, I saw my family. I saw every person the corporations have used and thrown away." Roan finally looked at her. "So yeah, I'm helping you." "Because someone should. Because they don't get to treat people like things." Lyris reached out and touched his arm. Her hand was warm despite the metallic quality of her skin. "Thank you." The ship's computer beeped. They were approaching the facility's sector. Roan began preparing the fake distress signal. He pulled up salvage company codes he had collected over the years, picking one that seemed legitimate enough. "Get ready," he said. "Once we're inside, things will move fast." Lyris nodded. She pulled a small device from her pocket. It looked like a damaged communicator. "I took this from the facility when I escaped. It has their security protocols. I can use it to unlock doors if I can get close enough to their network." "Smart." "I had time to plan," Lyris said with a sad smile. 6 months of captivity gives you time to think." The facility appeared on their view screen. It was built into a massive asteroid, barely visible against the rock. Weapons platforms and sensor arrays dotted the surface. Roan sent the distress signal and held his breath. A response came through. "Salvage vessel, you are cleared for docking Bay 3. Follow the beacon and keep your weapons powered down." "We don't have any weapons," Roan muttered, but he followed the beacon as instructed. They descended into a tunnel that led deep into the asteroid. The walls were lined with automated defenses. If the collective suspected anything, Roan and Lyris would be dead before they could react. The tunnel opened into a huge hangar filled with ships in various states of disrepair. Workers moved between them like ants. Roan landed in the assigned bay. His hands were sweating. "Last chance to turn back." "No turning back," Lyris said firmly. "Not without Ashfear." They unsealed the hatch and stepped out into the facility. Guards watched them but did not approach. Roan and Lyris walked with confidence they did not feel, pretending to belong. Lyris had wrapped her wings in a cloak to hide them. It made her look hunched and awkward, but it was better than being recognized immediately. The facility was a maze of corridors and laboratories. Through windows, Roan saw things that made his skin crawl. Creatures in cages, experiments that looked more like torture, scientists in clean suits making notes while their subjects suffered. Lyris stopped at an intersection, her eyes unfocused as she concentrated. This way. I can feel Ashvir now. The dragon is below us, deep in the containment level. They found a service elevator and wrote it down. Each level they passed showed more security, more guards, more weapons. Roan's heart hammered. This was insane. They were 2 people against an entire military facility. The elevator stopped at the lowest level. The doors opened to reveal a corridor that ended in a massive reinforced door. Warning signs covered every surface. Danger. Restricted access. Lethal force authorized. Beyond that door, Ashvir waited in chains. Lyris looked at Roan. He looked back at her. Together they stepped forward into whatever came next. Silence filled the corridor except for the hum of power running through the facility's walls. Roan pressed his ear against the massive door and heard something that made his breath catch. A sound like wind chimes mixed with grinding metal. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Lyris had her hands flat against the door's surface. Her eyes were closed and glowing even through her eyelids. Ashvir knows we are here. The dragon is frightened. It has been hurt so many times that it does not dare hope for rescue. Can you open this? Roan examined the locking mechanism. It was far beyond anything he had worked with before. Multiple layers of security, including biometric scanners and encrypted access codes. Lyris pulled out the device she had stolen. Her fingers moved across its surface and the screen filled with data streams. The device has old codes. They might still work if the scientists have not updated everything. But Roan, there are cameras everywhere. The moment we open this door, they will know. Then we move fast. Roan checked the corridor behind them. Still empty, but that would not last. Open it. Lyris interfaced the device with the door's control panel. Numbers scrolled past. Red lights turned yellow. Yellow turned green. The massive door groaned and began to slide open. Alarms immediately shrieked throughout the facility. So much for stealth, Roan said. They slipped through the opening before the door fully retracted. The chamber beyond was enormous. It had to be to hold what Roan saw. Ashvir was bigger than any ship he had ever repaired. The dragon's body stretched at least 50 meters from nose to tail. Its scales were interlocking plates of bronze and silver that caught the harsh facility lights. Each scale was a work of art, etched with patterns that seemed to shift when Roan looked at them. But what struck him most was the pain. Ashfire hung suspended by energy chains that bit into the dragon's limbs. Neural dampeners covered its head like a cage. Sections of the dragon's hide had been removed, exposing the mechanical and organic systems beneath. Fluids leaked from wounds that wept both blood and oil. The dragon's eyes opened as they entered. They glowed like molten copper and fixed on Lyris with such intensity that Roan felt it in his chest. A sound filled the chamber. Not quite a roar, more like music played on broken instruments. Lyris ran forward. She was crying. I came back. I promised I would come back. She reached the dragon and pressed her hands against its scales. The sound Ashvir made changed. It became softer, gentler. The dragon was trying to comfort her even while trapped in suffering. Help me free it, Lyris called to Roan. The chains are energy-based. There should be generators powering them. Roan forced himself to move, seeing Ashvir had frozen him in place. This was no machine. This was a living being that felt and thought and suffered. He found the generators mounted on the walls. 4 of them, 1 for each chain. They were heavily shielded and had backup systems in case of failure. This is going to take time, he said. We do not have time. Lyris pointed to the chamber entrance. Guards were gathering outside. They could see armed figures preparing to breach. Roan worked frantically, his tools moving faster than they ever had. He bypassed the first generator's safety systems and overloaded its core. The generator exploded in a shower of sparks. 1 chain flickered and died. Ashvir's right foreleg dropped free. The dragon immediately began straining against the remaining chains. The metal groaned under the pressure. Ashvir was strong, but the chains held. Keep going, Lyris urged. She had positioned herself between the door and Roan. ready to defend him if the guards entered. Roan attacked the second generator. This one had different security, but he adapted. Another explosion. Another chain failed. Ashvir's left leg came free. Guards burst into the chamber. They carried weapons that crackled with energy. Lyra spread her wings wide, and Roan realized they were not just for flying. The metallic feathers reflected the weapon's fire, scattering the shots. She was using her own body as a shield. "Lyris, get down," Roan shouted. "Just work," she called back. The third generator proved more difficult. Someone had reinforced it recently. Roan's tools could not penetrate the shielding. He looked around desperately and spotted a maintenance panel. He pried it open and found the power conduits feeding all the generators. If he cut those, everything would fail at once. But the energy flowing through them was enough to kill him if he made a mistake. More guards poured in. They were trying to surround Lyris. She moved like a dancer, her wings slicing through the air. The edges were sharp enough to cut. One guard got too close and his weapon flew from his hand, sliced in half. Roan made his decision. He grabbed an insulated tool and jammed it into the power conduit. Electricity arced across the chamber. Every light went out. The generators died. The chains vanished. Ashvir fell to the floor with a crash that shook the entire facility. For a moment, the dragon lay still. Then it began to move. The neural dampeners on its head sparked and shattered as Ashvir stood. The dragon's full height was terrifying. Its head nearly touched the chamber's ceiling. The guards stopped advancing. They stared up at the creature they had kept chained and tortured. Ashvir looked down at them with eyes that burned like furnaces. The dragon drew breath and its chest began to glow. Heat radiated outward. "No," Lyris called out. "Ashvir, no. They are not worth it, please." The dragon hesitated. Its chest continued to glow, but it did not release whatever destructive power it was gathering. Instead, Ashvir turned its massive head toward Lyris. The dragon's expression, if a mechanical face could have expressions, softened. A woman's voice echoed through the chamber. "How touching. The weapon has feelings." A figure emerged from a viewing platform above. She wore the insignia of a facility director. "You have cost me significant resources." Both the Ethran subject and the prototype were nearly ready for replication. "Now I will have to start over." "They are not subjects," Roan shouted up at her. "They are people." The director laughed. "Sentiment from a salvage worker. How quaint. Let me make you an offer. Leave the creatures here and walk away. I will make you wealthy beyond imagination. You can have any life you want. And if I refuse, then you die with them." The director raised her hand. "Neural toxin, release now." Vents opened in the ceiling. Green gas hissed into the chamber. Roan smelled something sweet and wrong. Lyris collapsed immediately, her wings twitching. Even Ashvir staggered. The dragon's glow faded as the toxin invaded its systems. Roan felt his legs go weak. His vision blurred. He could not pass out now. If he did, they would all die or worse. His hand found the wall panel he had opened earlier. If he could overload the facility's main reactor, the surge would disrupt everything. It might also kill them all, but staying conscious in this gas would kill them anyway. He pulled wires free and crossed them. The facility's power grid began to scream. Lights flickered across all the levels. The toxin vents sputtered and stopped as their pumps lost power. "What have you done?" the director shrieked. Roan could not answer. He collapsed next to Lyris. His last sight was of Ashvir shaking off the toxin's effects and spreading wings Roan had not known the dragon possessed. They unfurled from Ashvir's back like solar panels, each section glowing with stored energy. The dragon roared. This time it was not music. It was rage. Roan's consciousness faded. He heard explosions and screams and the sound of metal tearing. When darkness took him, he thought it might be forever. But at least he had tried. At least Ashvir was free. Somewhere in the chaos, he felt something lift him gently, something warm and metallic. A voice spoke in his fading mind. Not words exactly, more like feelings translated into meaning. The dragon was thanking him, then nothing. Pain woke Roan. His head felt like someone had split it open and filled it with broken glass. He groaned and tried to sit up. Strong hands pushed him back down. "Rest," Lyris said. Her voice sounded strained. "You breathed more of the toxin than I did. Your body is still recovering." Roan forced his eyes open. They were moving. He lay on something warm and metallic that shifted beneath him with a rhythmic motion. He turned his head and saw bronze scales. They were on Ashvir's back. The dragon was running through the facility's corridors, smashing through walls when the passages were too small. What happened? Roan's throat burned when he spoke. You saved us, Lyris said. She sat near his head, one hand resting on his shoulder. The power surge you caused shut down the toxin and the containment systems. Ashfire broke free completely. The dragon carried us both out of that chamber. Alarms screamed around them. Automated turrets emerged from the walls and opened fire. Ashfire's wings spread and created a shield of energy that absorbed the shots. The dragon's tail whipped around and destroyed the turrets with casual strength. We need to reach the hangar, Lyris called out. She was communicating with Ashfire through some connection Roan could not see. Other prisoners are escaping. The facility is in chaos. Roan managed to sit up. His vision swam, but he stayed conscious. Ahead he saw cell doors hanging open. Creatures of dozens of species fled through the corridors. Some were injured. Some were dying. All were desperate for freedom. We should help them, Roan said. Ashfire is trying, Lyris replied. But we cannot save everyone. If we stay too long, none of us will escape. It was the hardest truth Roan had ever accepted. They ran past aliens crying for help that they could not provide. Ashfire destroyed locked doors when possible, but some containment systems were too strong even for the dragon. A group of guards tried to block their path. They had set up a barricade with heavy weapons. Ashfire did not slow down. The dragon's chest began to glow again. That terrible heat building. This time Lyris did not stop it. Fire erupted from Ashfire's mouth. Not regular fire, it was plasma, superheated to temperatures that melted the barricade instantly. The guards scattered. Some were not fast enough. Roan looked away from what remained. The dragon does not want to kill, Lyris said quietly. But Ashfire will protect us. That is what family does. Family. The word hit Roan harder than any weapon. He looked at Lyris with her damaged wings. He felt Ashfire's warmth beneath him, the dragon's powerful body carrying them to safety. They barely knew each other, but she was right. Something had formed between them in the midst of chaos and danger. They reached the hangar. Ships of all sizes filled the vast space. Roan spotted their small prototype among them, looking pathetic compared to the military vessels surrounding it. We need something bigger, he said. Something that can carry all three of us. There, Lyris pointed to a cargo freighter. It was old but solid, built for long hauls through dangerous space. That ship has enough room for Ashfire in the cargo bay. They ran for it. Ashfire's claws sparked on the metal floor. Behind them, guards were regrouping. The facility's defense systems were coming back online as backup generators kicked in. Roan reached the freighter's hatch and began hot-wiring the controls. His hands shook from toxin after effects, but muscle memory guided him. The hatch opened. Lyris helped him inside while Ashfire climbed into the cargo bay. The dragon barely fit. Get us out of here, Lyris said. She collapsed into the co-pilot seat, exhausted. Roan stumbled to the pilot controls. The freighter's systems were older than he expected, but functional. He fired up the engines without waiting for proper warm-up sequences. The ship lifted off with a groan of protesting metal. Weapons fire chased them through the hangar exit. The freighter's shields flickered under the assault. Roan pushed the engines harder, his vision tunneling as he focused on escape. They burst out of the asteroid into open space. The battlecruiser was waiting. Of course it is, Roan muttered. The massive ship blocked their escape route. Its weapons were already locking on. In the cargo bay, Ashfire roared. The sound reverberated through the freighter's hull. Roan felt the ship shake as the dragon moved. Then Ashfire did something impossible. The dragon pushed open the cargo bay's outer door and leaped into space. What is it doing? Roan shouted. Lyris's eyes were wide with fear and wonder. Protecting us. Ashfire spread its wings in the vacuum of space. They were not for flying in atmosphere. They were solar collectors and energy projectors. The dragon positioned itself between the freighter and the battlecruiser. When the battlecruiser fired, Ashfire's wings absorbed the energy and redirected it. Blasts meant to destroy them scattered harmlessly into space. But the effort was costing Ashfire. Roan could see the dragon's scales beginning to dull. The glow from its chest was fading. Ashfire could not maintain this defense forever. I need to fix this, Roan said. I need to help the dragon. How? Lyris demanded. We are in space. Ashfire is out there. Roan grabbed a repair harness from the freighter's equipment locker. It had magnetic locks designed for external hull work. I am going out there. That is insane. Yeah. Roan sealed his suit and checked the oxygen levels. But insane seems to be working for us today. He cycled through the airlock before Lyris could stop him. The harness's magnetic boots locked onto the hull. Roan activated the tether and pushed himself toward Ashfear. The dragon's massive form loomed ahead, silhouetted against the stars. Another weapons barrage streaked past. Ashfear's wings flared, catching the energy. Roan reached the dragon and locked his boots onto the scales. Up close, he could see the damage. The collective scientists had installed limiters throughout Ashfear's body. They were designed to prevent the dragon from accessing its full power. That was why Ashfear was struggling now. Roan pulled out his tools. His hands were clumsy in the suit's gloves, but he managed. He found the first limiter attached to the dragon's spine. It was a cruel device spiked into Ashfear's living metal. Roan began disconnecting it. Ashfear's head swung around. Those copper eyes fixed on Roan. The dragon could crush him with one movement. Instead, Ashfear held perfectly still. "I am trying to help," Roan said, knowing the dragon could not hear him in the vacuum. "Trust me like I am trusting you." He removed the first limiter. Then the second. Each one came away with sparks and fluid. Roan counted 7 total. 7 devices meant to cage something magnificent. He tore them all out. Energy exploded from Ashfear's body. The dragon's scales lit up like a star. Roan was thrown back, his tether snapping. He tumbled through space, watching helplessly as he drifted away from both the dragon and the ship. Then a wing caught him. Ashfear moved with impossible grace, sweeping around to scoop Roan from the void. The dragon brought him back to the freighter's airlock and held him there until the door opened. Roan fell inside, gasping. Through the viewport, he watched Ashfear at full power. The dragon was beautiful and terrible. When the battlecruiser fired again, Ashfear did not just block the shots. The dragon released an electromagnetic pulse that rippled across space like a shockwave. The battlecruiser's lights went out. Its weapons went silent. The massive ship began to drift, completely disabled. Ashfear flew back to the freighter and somehow squeezed back into the cargo bay. Roan could hear the dragon settling in, exhausted but alive. Lyris helped him out of the harness. She was crying again, but this time from relief. "You did it. You freed Ashfear completely." Roan slumped against the wall. "Can we go somewhere quiet now? Somewhere without corporations trying to kill us?" "I know a place," Lyris said softly. "Far from the trade routes. Beyond collective jurisdiction." Roan set course based on her coordinates. As they jumped to FTL, leaving the disabled battlecruiser and the ruined facility behind, a message came through on all channels. The director's face appeared on screen. She looked furious. "Roan Hendricks," she said, and Roan's blood went cold hearing his full name. "You are now a wanted criminal throughout collective space. Charges include terrorism, theft of corporate assets, and murder of security personnel. Nowhere will be safe for you." The message ended. Roan stared at the blank screen. His old life was truly gone now. He was a fugitive, hunted, alone except for a winged girl and a mechanical dragon. Lyris touched his shoulder. "You are not alone. We are together. The 3 of us." In the cargo bay, Ashfear made a sound like wind chimes. It was agreeing. Roan allowed himself a small smile. "Then I guess we better make it work." 3 weeks passed in the silence of deep space. The freighter traveled beyond mapped territories, following coordinates that Lyris remembered from old Ethran star charts. Roan spent his time making repairs and modifications. The ship had taken damage during their escape, and keeping it running required constant work. Ashfear remained in the cargo bay. The dragon's presence changed everything. Roan had to recalibrate the ship's center of gravity. He had to boost the life support to handle the extra heat Ashfear generated, but he did not mind. Working with his hands kept him from thinking too much about what they had done and what waited ahead. Lyris healed slowly. Her wings had been badly damaged, and Roan did what he could to repair them. He was a mechanic, not a doctor, but the wings were part metal and part living tissue. He understood the mechanical side, at least. He carefully straightened bent feathers and reconnected severed circuits. Lyris never complained, even when the work hurt. "How do you know where we are going?" Roan asked one evening while rewiring a control panel. Evening and morning meant nothing in space, but they kept to a schedule anyway. It helped maintain sanity. "My people explored this sector centuries ago," Lyris said. She was perched on a crate, her wings spread to dry after Roan had cleaned them. "We found a world far from trade routes, Sindara. It had basic settlements. Mining colonies. People who asked few questions. Sounds too good to be true. Maybe, but it is all we have. Roan finished the wiring and tested the panel. Lights flickered green. I keep thinking about the others. The prisoners we left behind. I know. Lyris's voice was heavy with guilt. I hear them in my dreams. Their cries for help. In the cargo bay, Ashvir made a low rumbling sound. The dragon was listening. It always listened. We cannot save everyone, Roan said, repeating the words Lyris had told him during the escape. They still tasted bitter. But maybe we can do something, eventually. The collective has facilities on dozens of worlds, Lyris said. Hundreds of prisoners. We are 3 fugitives on a stolen ship. What can we do against an entire corporation? Roan did not have an answer. He returned to his work, letting the familiar rhythm of repair calm his mind. Tools in his hands. Problems with solutions. It was simpler than morality. The ship's sensors beeped. They were approaching Sindara. Roan went to the cockpit and brought them out of FTL. A rust-colored planet filled the viewport. It looked harsh. All rock and dust with minimal atmosphere. Settlements showed as heat signatures scattered across the surface. Not exactly paradise, Roan observed. No, Lyris agreed, but it is safe. They descended through the thin atmosphere. Wind buffeted the freighter, and Roan had to fight the controls to keep them steady. He aimed for the largest settlement, a place called Burrowtown according to the outdated star charts. It was built partially underground to protect against dust storms and radiation. Landing was rough. The freighter's gear was not designed for planetary use. They touched down in an open area outside the town with a grinding crash. Roan winced at the sound of breaking components. Well, we are not flying out of here anytime soon, he said. Good, Lyris replied. I need rest, real rest. Not sleeping in a pilot chair. The cargo bay door opened and Ashvir emerged into Sindara's harsh sunlight. The dragon stretched its wings and looked around. Roan could see settlers watching from a distance. They stared at Ashvir with fear and wonder. This might be a problem, Roan muttered. But as days passed, the settlers adapted. Children were the first to approach Ashvir. They had no preconceptions about what a mechanical dragon should be. They just saw something amazing. Ashvir was gentle with them, letting them climb on the dragon's back and touch its scales. Parents watched nervously at first, then relaxed when they saw their children were safe. Roan found work quickly. The settlement's equipment was constantly breaking down. Harsh conditions wore out machines faster than people could replace them. A good mechanic was always needed. He set up a small shop in an abandoned mining structure. It had room for his tools and space for Ashvir to rest nearby. Lyris helped him. Her understanding of machines was even deeper than his. She could sense problems before they became critical. Together, they fixed power generators, mining equipment, water purifiers, and dozens of other essential systems. The settlers paid in supplies and local currency. It was not much, but it was honest work. One evening, a month after their arrival, Roan was closing up the shop when a stranger walked in. He was human, scarred, and weathered. His clothes marked him as a bounty hunter. Roan's hand moved toward a wrench, the closest thing to a weapon nearby. Easy, the bounty hunter said, raising his hands. I am not here for trouble. Then why are you here? I know who you are. Roan Hendricks. Wanted by the Turvan Collective. Large bounty on your head. The hunter looked past Roan to where Lyris was organizing parts. The winged girl too. And especially the dragon. Roan gripped the wrench. If you try to take us, you will regret it. I said I am not here for that. The hunter pulled out a data pad and tossed it to Roan. I have been tracking you for 2 weeks. Watched how you help people here. Saw the dragon playing with kids. Saw the winged girl fixing old Wilson's life support without charging him. You are not terrorists. The collective is lying about what you did. Roan caught the pad and saw his own face on a wanted poster. The charges listed made him sound like a monster. Destruction of property, murder, theft, all twisted to serve the collective's narrative. What do you want? Roan asked. To give you a warning. Other hunters are coming. Not all of them are as observant as me. Some just see the money. You need to be ready. The hunter turned to leave but paused at the door. For what it is worth, I think the collective deserves what you did to them. I have seen their facilities. I know what they do. But right now, staying here makes you an easy target. He left before Roan could respond. Lyris came to stand beside Roan, reading the wanted poster over his shoulder. "He is right," she said. "We brought danger here. These people have been kind to us. We should not repay that by making them targets." "Where would we go?" Roan asked. "We cannot keep running forever." Ashvir's voice rumbled through the shop. Not words, but feelings. Determination, protection. The dragon was telling them it would not run anymore. If hunters came, Ashvir would fight. That night, Roan could not sleep. He stood outside the shop and looked up at Sindara's 3 moons. The air was cold and thin. His breath came out in visible clouds. He thought about his old life on Halcyon. Quiet, safe, alone. He had been hiding from the universe. Now he was part of something. He had Lyris and Ashvir. He had a purpose beyond fixing machines and trying to forget. The settlers here depended on him. Other prisoners in other facilities needed help. The bounty hunter's warning had been meant kindly, but it had also shown Roan something important. He could not hide anymore. None of them could. Footsteps approached. Lyris sat down beside him, wrapping her wings around herself for warmth. "You are thinking too loudly. I can hear it from inside. Sorry." "What will we do?" she asked. "I do not know yet," Roan admitted, "but I know we cannot keep running. And we cannot stay hidden while the collective continues hurting people. So we fight. Maybe, or maybe we find another way." Roan looked at her. "You said the collective has many facilities. What if there were proof of what they do? Real evidence that could not be ignored?" "The galaxy ignores many terrible things," Lyris said bitterly, "but it is harder to ignore when the evidence is everywhere. When prisoners testify, when documentation spreads too far to contain." Roan's mind was working now, seeing connections like he saw how machine parts fit together. The bounty hunter found us easily. That means others know where we are. What if we use that? Lyris's eyes began to glow with understanding. We turn ourselves into bait. And when they come, we make sure the whole galaxy is watching. They sat together in the cold night air, planning their next move. In the shop behind them, Ashvir slept but remained alert. The dragon's presence was a comfort and a promise. They were 3 beings from different worlds, bound together by pain and hope. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The Unbreakable trio was done running. Dawn broke over Sindara in shades of orange and red. Dust storms on the horizon looked like distant fires. Roan stood in front of his shop, arms crossed, watching the sky. He knew they were coming. He had sent the message himself 3 days ago, broadcasting his location on every frequency the collective monitored. "Come and get us," the message had said. But this time the whole galaxy will watch. Behind him, settlers moved through Burrowtown with purpose. They were not evacuating. They had voted to stay and help. These were people who had fled corporate control themselves. They understood what Roan and his companions represented, a chance to fight back, a chance to be seen. Lyris emerged from the shop. Her wings were fully healed now, gleaming silver in the morning light. She carried recording equipment salvaged from old survey drones. Over the past 3 days, she and Roan had modified them to broadcast on every open channel in this sector. When the collective arrived, their actions would be witnessed by thousands of ships, stations, and settlements. "Are you scared?" she asked. "Terrified," Roan admitted, "but also ready. I am tired of running, tired of hiding what they did to you and Ashvir." Ashvir rested near the shop, the dragon's massive form visible to anyone approaching the town. Children played nearby despite the danger. Their parents had tried to keep them away, but the kids kept sneaking back. Ashvir had become their protector. They trusted the dragon completely. An old woman named Petra walked up. She ran the town's communication center. "Your broadcast equipment is ready. Once they are in range, we can start streaming everything. I have also sent messages to independent news networks. Many are already watching this sector." "Thank you," Roan said. "Thank you," Petra replied. "Someone needed to stand up to the collective. We just never thought we could. You showed us different. Ships appeared in the sky, not just 1 or 2, a full strike force." The settlers tensed. Children were finally pulled to safety, disappearing into underground shelters. Only those who had volunteered to help remained above ground. The ships landed in formation surrounding the town. Ramps extended and soldiers emerged. Behind them came a familiar figure, the facility director. She wore body armor now and carried a weapon. Her face was cold with rage. "Rowan Hendricks." Her voice boomed through speakers on her armor. "Lyris of the Ethrin, and the stolen prototype designated Ashvir, you are all under arrest. Surrender now and the settlement will not be harmed." Rowan stepped forward. He wore a small camera on his chest. Lyris had the broadcasting equipment active. Everything was being transmitted across the sector. "We are not surrendering, and we are not stolen property. We are free beings who escaped your torture facility." "Lies," the director snapped. "You destroyed corporate property. You killed security personnel. You released dangerous experiments. Tell them what you did to us." Lyris moved to stand beside Rowan. "Tell them how you harvested my feathers while I was conscious, how you cut pieces from Ashvir to study, how you kept sentient beings in cages for experiments." The director's expression flickered. She knew they were broadcasting. She knew others were watching. "Our research is classified and legal under corporate law. You have no right to interfere." "Corporate law does not override basic rights," Rowan said. "And we have proof." He nodded to Petra. She activated a second broadcast stream. Images filled the air above the town, projected large enough for everyone to see. They were recordings from the facility. Lyris had stolen them during the escape. They showed everything. The torture, the experiments, the prisoners begging for help, the casual cruelty of scientists treating living beings like objects. Soldiers shifted uncomfortably. Some lowered their weapons slightly. They had not known what they were protecting. They thought they were retrieving criminals, not silencing witnesses. The director saw control slipping. "Those files are fabricated. Fake evidence created by terrorists." "Then explain this." Lyris pulled back her wings, showing the scars on her back where feathers had been ripped out. "Explain the marks on Ashvir where your scientists cut away scales. Explain the prisoners who are still suffering in your facilities right now." Ashvir stood. The dragon moved slowly, deliberately. Each step was measured. The soldiers raised their weapons again, but they did not fire. They were too afraid, too uncertain. Ashvir stopped in the center of the town square and spread its wings fully. The dragon's chest began to glow. "If you fire on us," Rowan called out, "Ashvir will defend, and unlike you, we will protect the innocent. Every action you take is being broadcast. The whole sector is watching. How will you explain burning a settlement to capture 3 fugitives?" The director's hand tightened on her weapon. Rowan could see her calculating. She had come with overwhelming force, expecting easy prey. Now she faced a choice between admitting defeat or committing atrocities in front of witnesses. "Stand down," a new voice commanded. A soldier stepped forward, removing his helmet. He was older, with the rank markings of a senior officer. "Director, I will not order my people to fire on civilians. We were told this was a simple capture mission. Nobody said anything about torture or illegal experiments." "You do not have the authority to countermand my orders," the director hissed. "Actually, I do." The officer held up his datapad. "I just received confirmation from Galactic Enforcement. They have been investigating the Turvan Collective based on these broadcasts. There is a warrant for your arrest, Director. You are charged with crimes against sentient beings." The director's face went white. She raised her weapon, pointing it at Rowan. "If I fall, you fall with me." Ashvir moved faster than something that large should be able to move. The dragon's tail swept the director's legs. She fell hard, her weapon flying away. Before she could recover, Ashvir pinned her gently but firmly with one massive claw. The soldiers did not intervene. They stood down completely, weapons lowered. Ships appeared in the sky again. Different ships this time. Official vessels with Galactic Enforcement markings. Rowan felt his legs go weak with relief. It had worked. Their gamble had actually worked. Officers from Galactic Enforcement landed and took custody of the director. She screamed threats and accusations, but nobody listened. The senior officer from the Collective Strike Force began surrendering his people peacefully. Many of them looked relieved to be out from under corporate command. As the sun climbed higher, news spread across the sector and beyond. The broadcast had reached millions. Independent journalists began arriving on Sindara, wanting interviews and more evidence. Survivors from other collective facilities started coming forward with their own stories. The Turvan Collective tried to contain the damage, but it was too late. The evidence was everywhere. Public outrage forced governments to act. Facilities were raided. Prisoners were freed. Executives were arrested. The corporation began to collapse under the weight of its crimes. Weeks passed. Sindora transformed from a forgotten settlement to a symbol of resistance. More survivors arrived seeking shelter and community. Roan's small repair shop could not handle all the need, so the settlers helped him build something larger. A proper facility with medical care, counseling, and training for those who had been imprisoned. Lyris worked tirelessly, helping new arrivals adjust. She understood their trauma better than anyone. She knew the nightmares, the fear, the difficulty trusting again. She became an advocate and a voice for those who had been silenced. Ashvir remained the settlement's guardian. The dragon no longer needed to hide its power. Children played on Ashvir's back during the day. At night, the dragon flew patrols to ensure everyone stayed safe. Settlers who had once feared the mechanical dragon now considered it part of their community. One evening, Roan sat outside the expanded workshop. The 3 moons were bright overhead. He was not alone anymore. Lyris sat beside him and Ashvir rested nearby. Other survivors gathered around a fire, sharing stories and slowly healing together. "We did it," Lyris said softly. "We actually made a difference." "We are making a difference," Roan corrected. "This is not finished. There are still corporations out there doing terrible things, still prisoners who need help." "One step at a time," Lyris said. She smiled and her eyes glowed warmly in the darkness. "We cannot save everyone alone." "We are not alone anymore." Roan gestured to the settlement around them. "Look at what we built. Look at who came together because we stood up." Ashvir made a sound like gentle thunder. It was contentment. Peace. For the first time since its creation, the dragon was truly free and truly home. A young settler approached. He was one of the recent arrivals, freed from a facility on the other side of the sector. He looked nervous but determined. "Excuse me," he said. "I wanted to thank you. All 3 of you. You saved my life. When I was in that cell, I thought nobody cared. I thought I would die there, but you proved me wrong. You showed that someone does care, that we are not alone." Roan did not know what to say. He was just a mechanic, just someone who had made a choice to help when helping seemed impossible. "We are all together now," Lyris told the young settler. "We take care of each other. That is what family does, family." Roan looked around at the faces lit by firelight. Survivors and settlers, humans and aliens. People who had been broken and were slowly becoming whole again. They were a family now, built not from blood but from shared pain and shared hope. Ashvir spread one wing to shelter them from the cold wind that blew across Sindara. The dragon's eyes glowed like distant stars. Warm, protective, home. Roan had lost one family to corporate greed. Now he had found another. A strange, impossible family of survivors and fighters. A mechanic, a winged girl, and a dragon of gears. They were unbreakable, and they were just beginning.